So let's get started. My name is Chantal Cook. I'm a director of NALP. I'm director of PR. Joining us on this call is Amanda Hamilton, our former CEO and current patron of NALP. Also, Jane Robson, who is our current CEO and was our former director of compliance, although Jane still looks after compliance. Two hats now. And also Nigel, who heads up our marketing team as well. So we're all here on the webinar today, and we're hoping to give you lots of useful information. The topic, as I mentioned, is it's 10 years on since the virtual eradication of legal aid. That's the LASPO 2012 regulation. And Amanda will tell us more about that in a minute. So we're going to talk about what that means, what it is, what it means, and really the impact, opportunities and otherwise for paralegals as a result of that. So there was definitely going to be time for questions, and so any questions, pop them in the chat. So thank you, Amanda, once again for joining us, as always. So tell us, this regulation has been almost pretty much 10 years to the day since it came into force, although it's got a 2012 date, came into force in 2013. So why was it introduced in the first place? What was the kind of the thinking behind it?
Well, the motivation of the government at the time, I believe it was the coalition government, was, amongst others, to reduce the government spending on legal funding, and also to create a situation which discourages unnecessary litigation that seemed to have been built up prior to LASPO. So those were the two overwhelming motivations for the government: to reduce government spending and to discourage litigation.
And 12 years on, what's the effect? Has it put my teeth in? Has it achieved that goal or not?
Well, statistics seem to indicate that some cases have decreased. Some types of cases have decreased, such as family cases and so on and so forth. But overwhelmingly, there has been some really unfortunate consequences of the virtual eradication of legal aid. I would suggest that, yes, the spending has been decreased, which was one of the main motivations of the government, but has it discouraged litigation? In some cases, yes. In some aspects of law, yes. But in others, definitely no.
And that actually leads me on to my next question, which is in terms of the fallout. Let's talk about the negativity of having this legislation. So you say in some ways it has reached its goals, but I'm guessing that's not all come with, you know, a bed of roses around it.
No, it certainly hasn't. So what LASPO did was basically say that there's no legal aid for a certain type of cases, which there was before. For example, welfare benefit appeals, debts and small claims, anything related to contract law or clinical negligence, and the majority of cases heard in tribunals, which traditionally have not been eligible for legal aid. But because of the reduction in legal aid for these type of cases, it has caused immense suffering for a lot of consumers. And that suffering, not least, I mean, if we're talking about welfare benefit appeals, one can only imagine the difficulty that some people who have problems, either physical or mental problems, the results of LASPO has put immense pressure on them and stress because they haven't been able to get their benefits. That's just one aspect of it. Now, previously, before LASPO came into effect, one could go to a solicitor if somebody owed us a debt or we owed somebody a debt and they were trying to sue us for it. We could go to a solicitor, get 30 minutes of free advice and assistance, apply for legal aid to defend or bring our action, and legal aid would be means tested and merit tested. That meant that you would be able to get funding if your means provided sufficient evidence that you required it and it was on a kind of a scale. And also the legal aid committee would look at the merits of your case. and see if there was a 50+% chance of you getting a win out of the case. But now that is not the situation. Has it prevented litigation? I would suggest not. What it has done is forced people into a position where if they can't pay for legal assistance out of their own pockets because it's too costly, it has forced them to go to court as litigants in person. And this, in turn, has put the court process under immense pressure. Because if you've got a litigant in person turning up in court who does not know the correct processes, the court will have to adjourn to ensure that that litigant is given the right information and knows what to do. So this has put the court structure and process in huge disarray. There has been a knock-on effect with court hearings because they can't be listed as they should be. The delays are immeasurable. Not only that, is that if a litigant in person is unable to pay for the fees of a solicitor or barrister, then obviously they are lacking in access to justice. And this is not good. I think we can all agree upon that. But it has had some beneficial effects to a certain sector.
Okay, so what sector is that and what beneficial effects are there?
Well, surprised to say that, perhaps not surprised to say, that paralegals have now come into their own, because where a solicitor may charge something in the region of anywhere between £250 to £600 an hour for their services, and a barrister between £250 and £350 an hour for their services, a paralegal may only charge 30, 40, maybe up to £80 an hour, depending on the type of work that they do. Now, this fills a gap, because if a litigant in person is struggling because there's no access to justice at a reasonable cost, and in comes a qualified paralegal with a license to practice that is charging £50 an hour as opposed to £500 an hour, well, I think it's a no-brainer. And this is where paralegals can make a very good living and assisting consumers who have a lack of access to justice in this way.
So is this something, do you think, therefore, being an opportunity, horrible as it is for other people, that actually it's something that paralegals should be doing to market themselves, is saying, actually, look, we can help, and we've got, you know, we can help if you're a litigant in person, and this is how much we charge. It's almost like a marketing angle that paralegals could use, which benefits their business, but obviously also benefits the clients that they'll be helping who might be struggling otherwise.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think paralegals now fill a very important gap in the marketplace. And it's definitely something that a paralegal who has qualification, who has a license to practice, can market themselves to consumers about. You know, legal aid used to be a right that people had. If, you know, how awful it must be to be sued through the courts and not be able to defend yourself in a reasonable way because you don't have this access to justice and you can't afford it. So what better way than for a paralegal to enter the marketplace and assist these consumers to gain that access to justice? It's a definite plus to me.
And are there any particular qualifications that you should look at, kind of in the suite of qualifications that NALP offers? Is there a particular one that you think you must get to this level, or you must have this one in order to be able to do that kind of work? And I'm talking specifically about helping clients who are being a litigant in person.
Well, I would suggest that a level, the NALP level 4 diploma in paralegal studies is the perfect qualification to qualify. But of course, in addition to that, one does need experience. And experience can be gained in a number of ways, either through being employed, working within the legal sector, doing legal work, or outside of the legal sector in an in-house legal department, working in whatever, contractual matters, or even Crown Prosecution Service, working as a caseworker. All this kind of experience will go towards your eligibility for a license to practice, to enable you to offer services to consumers.
Now I'm going to ask you to gaze into a crystal ball a little bit, which I know is a little bit unfair, but bearing in mind that we're 10 years on, bearing in mind that it hasn't had really the desired effect, although I guess in some ways the government is spending a lot less money, but apart from that, it hasn't really had the desired effect. And as you say, there are these challenges for people who haven't got access to legal aid. Do you see anything changing in the maybe near to medium term in terms of legislation and regulation that might shift this, or do you think this is pretty much, for the moment at least, here to stay?
Well, I think there have been discussions in the last 10 years about legal aid, quite a number of them. There have been seminars, there have been forums about it, and concern has been expressed about the lack of access to justice for consumers, for most consumers who are not regarded as vulnerable, because LASPO does try to protect the vulnerable. But as far as I can see, there is no movement to overturn LASPO, or indeed to amend it in the near future. And while this is terribly disappointing for people, for consumers generally, for lay people generally, it's beneficial for our paralegal sector to be able to show their worth in the legal sector, their worth not only to the legal profession generally and the legal sector generally, but also to consumers. And one of the things, obviously, that NALP has always tried to do is to ensure that the word gets out about paralegals and their worth and what they can do for you as a consumer. And clearly the difficulty that some lay people have, some consumers have, is that they don't always know about paralegals or where to find a paralegal. Now, there is the Legal Choices website, which indicates to a consumer where they can go for legal advice and assistance and what type of professional there is out there in the marketplace. And as we know, we have the National Paralegal Register that features any paralegal that is licensed to offer services to consumers. But it is a question really of getting the word out there that paralegals and the role of a paralegal is just as valid as the role of a solicitor. In fact, some of our paralegal members are ex-solicitors. Why should they be regarded as any different? They're qualified, they're experienced, they're competent. Why should they not be considered to assist you, me, or anyone, generally lay people or consumers, with the difficulties that they may encounter? So there's several things going on here. LASPO has certainly reduced the government spending on legal funding, no doubt about it, because there's virtually none available. There is still funding for a few cases to help vulnerable individuals, people who are about to be made homeless, etc., etc., people who are subject to domestic violence and so on. But those who are non-vulnerable people, it's very, very difficult to afford cost-effective legal advice and assistance, except from a paralegal, really.
So I think that the takeaway from this then is, much as I don't want to be a consumer needing legal help under these circumstances, really, there is an opportunity for paralegals to help consumers who don't have access to the kind of money that you need if you want to get a big firm of solicitors on your side. So I think the number one here is there's an opportunity. If you've already got the skills, the qualifications and the experience, and you have your own license to practice, then perhaps this is a good chance, a good time to start marketing yourself as somebody who can offer that kind of help. If you don't have those skills yet, or you haven't had that experience yet, or perhaps you need to do a little bit of extra qualifications, then the fact that this doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon, there is actually time for you to think about the future of your business, or perhaps you're thinking about setting up your business in the future and ensuring that you have those qualifications and that you work towards getting that experience, so that when you do start your own business, or when you are fully qualified with the extra qualifications, that you can actually go, right, this is the service that I'm going to offer. So I guess what I'm saying is there's an opportunity. You don't have to grab it just today, because it's still going to be there in a few years' time. So that would also be the thing to do. And I think the final takeaway, it seems to me, is it is for all of us, and we know that at NALP, and we do a lot of marketing at NALP, but it is about letting people know, maybe it's your own social media that you're going to let people know that this is an option for them. Can't get legal aid for your case, talk to a paralegal is the basic message. So I think those are the three takeaways. There's an opportunity, it's not going away anytime soon, so there's time to plan. And then number three is make sure you get the word out there as much as possible, because that helps the whole industry as well. So that's a benefit to everybody. And of course, we're doing exactly that at NALP. In fact, Amanda wrote an article just last month, which is coming out in the press at the moment. You may have seen some of the coverage, which actually is all about this virtual eradication of legal aid. And we've got more press releases, as you know, every single month coming out, making sure that consumers know more about paralegals. To let you know, we've got another couple of webinars coming up. So we've got a May date of webinar already organised. That's going to be Thursday, the 25th of May, starting at 12:30, so the same timings as today, but on a Thursday, that's the 25th of May. This one we're going to do a little bit differently, because we're going to talk about setting up in practice as a paralegal. So if you're thinking about setting up your own business as a paralegal, then this is definitely a webinar you want to attend. And all of us will be giving you a little presentation about each section. So Amanda will be talking about the setting up, the structure, holding out, those kind of things that you really need to be aware of. Jane will be talking about compliance and dealing with complaints and transparency and those sorts of things. Nigel will be talking about marketing, and I'll be talking about PR and social media. So you'll get a little bit of everything, which will give you a nice kind of grounding for setting up your own business as a paralegal practitioner. So that's May the 25th at 12:30. That's a Thursday. And then we have another webinar booked between now and the summer break. So we'll be breaking over July and August. I think we all need a holiday. But in June, we'll be having another webinar. This one is booked for June the 29th. And this one is specifically if you're doing qualifications at the moment. So it's what are NALP examiners looking for? So when you're answering a legal assignment as doing one of your qualifications, what is it that a NALP examiner will be looking for? So we're going to give you some inside top tips to help you do your assignment. So that one's definitely a must listen if you're currently doing qualifications. And that will be said on June the 29th. Again, all those webinars will be available. They'll be recorded and they'll be available on the members only area. Sort of if you go to the blogs but logged in as a member, you'll be able to find those to listen to at any time. Then we'll take a little break, said in July and August, and then we'll be back with a bang in September with more webinars. And again, please do let us know if there's a topic you'd like us to cover. Just let us know. We're always here to try and give the best we possibly can to all our members. And you telling us kind of what you need and what help you want and what you feel could be better or anything like that, that's always super helpful to us. So please do let us know that. But I am guessing no one has any questions, because I've not seen any appear in the chat. So if that's the case, then I'd like to say thank you all so much to all of you for joining us on this Monday lunchtime. I was about to say Thursday, on this Monday lunchtime. And I do hope this webinar was very useful to you. I said you can listen to it again on the website, and we very much look forward to seeing you at the next webinar in May. So that's one about setting up as your own paralegal practice. So thank you so much to all of you. Have a lovely, lovely rest of your afternoon.